Nobody expected a first-round loser to outshine a Grand Slam champion. Yet that's exactly what unfolded in women's tennis this month. While Linda Noskova stood proudly on center court lifting the Wimbledon trophy, it was Alex Eala who didn't even make it past the opening round, who dominated headlines, social media, and fan conversations around the world. One walked away with the sport's most prestigious title, while the other captured the world's attention, creating a fascinating contrast that has quietly shaken the WTA. The unexpected divide has sparked an uncomfortable debate among fans, analysts, and even fellow players. In today's era of tennis, does winning alone still define greatness, or has popularity become just as powerful? To understand why this conversation has exploded, you have to look at two completely different paths to stardom. One is built through trophies, championships, and years of relentless success. The other is fueled by charisma, global fan support, and an unstoppable online presence that modern tennis has rarely experienced before. Linda Noskova's journey represents a traditional path. The 21-year-old Czech star, raised in a small town in the Czech Republic, spent years quietly developing into one of the sport's brightest young talents. Known for her powerful baseline game and remarkable composure under pressure, she first announced herself to the tennis world in 2024 when she stunned then-world number 1 Iga Swiatek in the Australian Open quarterfinals. That breakthrough victory transformed her reputation overnight, proving she wasn't simply a promising prospect, but a genuine future champion. Over the next 2 seasons, she steadily fulfilled those expectations, and in July 2026, she finally reached the pinnacle of the sport by capturing the Wimbledon title. The championship match itself was unforgettable, facing fellow Czech and close friend Karolina Muchova in an all-Czech final. Noskova appeared destined for a comfortable victory after taking control early. However, Muchova mounted one of the most remarkable comebacks in recent Wimbledon history, saving 5 championship points to force a dramatic deciding set. Despite the incredible resistance, Noskova held her nerve, regrouped when it mattered most, and ultimately secured the biggest victory of her career, completing the dream she had been chasing for years. For a moment, it looked as though the Wimbledon trophy was slipping through Linda Noskova's hands. But the young Czech regrouped under immense pressure, closed out the match 6-2, 5-7, 6-3, and became the youngest Wimbledon champion since Petra Kvitova in 2011. It was a career-defining coronation, an emotional, tear-filled afternoon that cemented her place among the sport's elite. Yet while Noskova celebrated the greatest achievement of her career, another 21-year-old was capturing the spotlight in a completely different way. Alex Eala, the rising Filipino star, had spent years battling through qualifying draws and relying on wild cards before finally breaking into the global conversation. She isn't a Grand Slam champion, and she isn't even ranked inside the world's top 20. But somewhere along the way, something extraordinary happened. She became a global phenomenon. It wasn't an overnight success. Her popularity grew match by match, highlight by highlight, and interview by interview until, by early 2026, journalists were openly referring to it as the Eala effect. Practice sessions featuring Eala suddenly attracted packed crowds. Fans waited for hours in difficult weather just to catch a glimpse of her training, and her matches generated an atmosphere usually reserved for the sport's biggest superstars. Perhaps the clearest sign of her growing influence came when Nike featured her alongside Aryna Sabalenka and Carlos Alcaraz, players who collectively own 10 Grand Slam singles titles. Yet it was Eala who received the coveted final billing, a position traditionally reserved for the campaign's biggest attraction. Suddenly, women's tennis had 2 remarkable 21-year-old stars rising at exactly the same moment, each rewriting expectations in a completely different way. Noskova was building her legacy through trophies and championship victories, while Eala was becoming a cultural force to the power of her global fan base and magnetic popularity. Then, in July 2026, those 2 very different success stories collided, and the numbers that followed ignited one of the most fascinating debates in modern tennis. To understand just how extraordinary Alex Eala's rise has been, go back to the Australian Open in January 2026. On paper, it was a tournament to forget. Eala suffered a crushing first-round defeat, falling 6-0, 6-3 to Alicia Parks in a result that would normally erase a player from the headlines within hours. By every traditional measure, there was nothing to celebrate. But the story of that Australian Open wasn't about the champions or even the biggest matches. It was about Alex Eala. Her explosive rise in popularity had become so overwhelming that the overflowing crowds following her around Melbourne quickly became one of the tournament's biggest talking points. Then came the statistic that left the tennis world stunned. Eala's pre-tournament press conference attracted an astonishing 196,000 views, nearly twice as many as Novak Djokovic's, and more than 6 times the audience of eventual men's champion Carlos Alcaraz. Even more remarkable, reigning world number 1 and 2-time Australian Open champion Aryna Sabalenka drew only a fraction of those numbers. Think about what that means. A 21-year-old player ranked outside the world's top 30 was generating more public curiosity than one of the greatest champions in tennis history. And it wasn't a one-time anomaly. The trend continued everywhere she went. At Indian Wells, a simple day-in-the-life video featuring Eala, posted on the tournament's official social media channels, instantly became the event's most watched piece of content by a comfortable margin. Reporters covering the tour began noticing that fans weren't just attending her matches. They were following her from tournament to tournament in what one journalist famously described as the Eala Tour, comparing the devotion surrounding her to the loyal fan bases that travel the world to follow music superstars. The numbers supported the growing phenomenon. By the middle of 2026, Eala had amassed nearly 1 million Instagram followers, giving her a social media audience more than twice the size of several higher-ranked stars, including Jessica Pegula, Madison Keys, and Amanda Anisimova. It was becoming increasingly clear that Alex Eala had evolved beyond simply being a promising young tennis player. She had become one of the sport's biggest global attractions. Players who had spent years building championship resumes were suddenly being outperformed online by someone who had not even broken into the world's top 25. That was a moment the WTA and the wider tennis world realized something unusual was happening. On-court rankings and off-court influence were no longer moving in the same direction, and no player represented that growing divide more clearly than Alex Eala. While Eala's popularity exploded across social media and global fan communities, Linda Noskova continued following the path tennis has always rewarded, quietly winning matches, steadily climbing the rankings, and developing into the player who would eventually lift a Grand Slam trophy. Yet as 2026 unfolded, it became increasingly clear that building a championship resume did not automatically build the same level of worldwide attention. Then came Wimbledon 2026, where the two remarkable storylines unfolded side by side on the same grass courts. Seeded 29th, Eala began her campaign with an impressive victory over Mexico's Renata Zarazua before battling back from a set down to defeat Australia's Maya Joint. But everything changed in the third round. On center court, Eala stunned defending Wimbledon champion Iga Swiatek with a sensational 7-6, 6-2 victory that instantly became one of the tournament's defining moments. The reaction in the Philippines was nothing short of extraordinary. Wimbledon itself celebrated the achievement by posting a message in Filipino declaring that the day would never be forgotten and that the entire nation stood behind its rising star. Watch parties filled sports bars and public venues across Manila as millions of fans stayed awake to follow every point. Broadcasters praised not only Eala's remarkable tennis, but also the humility and determination that had made her a national icon. Public figures admitted they were brought to tears while watching her matches in the early hours of the morning, and sociologists observed that her Wimbledon run had become something much bigger than sport, uniting people from different backgrounds behind a single source of national pride. Eala's unforgettable journey eventually came to an end in the fourth round after a hard-fought 3-set battle against Jasmine Paolini, falling 4-6, 6-4, 3-6. She never reached the quarterfinals, never played for the championship, and never lifted the trophy. Yet by the time her tournament ended, she had become one of the biggest stories in world tennis, proving that in the modern era, cultural impact can sometimes travel even faster than championship success. But by the time Alex Eala's Wimbledon journey came to an end, she had already secured her place in history as the first Filipino player to reach the round of 16 in a Grand Slam singles event, a breakthrough that propelled her to a career-high world ranking of number 28. And here's the part that challenges the traditional way of measuring success. Eala's fourth-round exit generated more emotional coverage across Southeast Asia than many Grand Slam finals receive anywhere in the world. Millions of fans celebrated her achievement, as though she had won the championship itself, while media outlets continued to spotlight her long after her tournament had ended. At the very same time, on the same Wimbledon grass, Linda Noskova quietly kept winning match after match. There were fewer headlines, less social media frenzy, and nowhere near the same level of worldwide attention until she stepped onto center court for final and delivered the greatest performance of her career to lift the Wimbledon trophy. The contrast could hardly have been more striking. On one side was a player eliminated in the fourth round who dominated global conversation and captured the imagination of millions. On the other was a player steadily marching toward an actual Grand Slam title, accomplishing the ultimate goal in tennis with comparatively little fanfare until the final weekend. It's a rare situation, and that unusual contrast is exactly what turned this into one of the sport's most fascinating debates. Whenever an athlete rises as quickly and commands as much attention, criticism is almost inevitable, and Alex Eala has experienced that reality firsthand. As her popularity exploded, so did a number of skeptics questioning whether the spotlight surrounding her had grown larger than her on-court achievements. It's a familiar pattern across professional sports. The moment an athlete becomes more famous than their ranking might suggest, critics often argue that the hype has outpaced the results. Eala, however, addressed those doubts calmly and confidently during a press conference in Makati. She explained that confidence is essential whether you're competing in front of a packed stadium or far from the spotlight, emphasizing that believing in herself has always been one of the foundations of her approach to competition. Her response wasn't defensive, confrontational, or dismissive. Instead, it reflected the quiet self-belief and maturity that had become defining qualities of her remarkable rise. It was a response of someone who understood that popularity, without consistent results, will eventually be questioned, and Alex Eala appeared determined to make sure her performances would continue catching up with the attention surrounding her. Beneath the headline, however, lies a quieter tension that is rarely discussed openly, but sits behind nearly every comparison fans make online. What does it mean for players like Linda Noskova, who has spent years grinding to the tour, collecting victories, climbing the rankings, and ultimately winning a Grand Slam, to watch a lower-ranked player command even greater public attention? Noskova has never publicly criticized Eala, and there is no evidence of any personal rivalry or conflict between the two. Yet the broader conversation among fans has been far more divided. Some argue that modern women's tennis is beginning to reward personality, social media influence, and viral moments more than pure competitive achievement, while others believe Eala's remarkable rise represents exactly the kind of global reach and fresh audience the sport has long needed. Eala herself has also challenged one of tennis's oldest stereotypes, the idea that fame inevitably changes players for the worse. Speaking candidly, she rejected the notion that professional tennis naturally makes athletes self-centered, explaining that if someone behaves that way, it reflects who they already are as a person rather than what the sport has made them become. That perspective reveals something important about how she has handled this extraordinary whirlwind. She has never pretended the spotlight isn't real, nor has she ignored the criticism that comes with it. Instead, she has focused on staying grounded while navigating a level of fame that few players experience so early in their careers. For Noskova, meanwhile, the challenge is entirely different but equally significant. Now that she has captured the Wimbledon title, her task is to prove that a Grand Slam championship still carries the prestige and lasting value it always has, even in an era where a single viral highlight can sometimes generate more online attention than a center court final. So who truly outshines the other? The answer is far more complex and far more interesting than the headline suggests. Linda Noskova's achievement is undeniable. She reached the pinnacle of the sport by winning one of tennis's most prestigious championships, earning her place in history through undeniable excellence on the court. Alex Eala, however, has accomplished something entirely different. Without lifting a Grand Slam trophy, she has become one of the most recognizable and influential young stars in world tennis, building a passionate global following that extends far beyond rankings and results. In many ways, the comparison isn't about deciding who is better. It is about recognizing that modern tennis now measures success in more than one way. One player has captured the sport's greatest prize, while the other has captured the imagination of millions. Together, they represent two powerful definitions of success, and their remarkable journeys may ultimately shape the future of women's tennis just as much as any championship ever could. Linda Noskova remains, by tennis's oldest and most respected standard, a true Grand Slam champion. She overcame one of the most dramatic championship matches in recent Wimbledon history, surviving her close friend Karolina Machova's incredible fight back after 5 championship points had slipped away before finally sealing the biggest victory of her career. In the emotional moments that followed, Noskova thanked her team and admitted she barely even knew how to hold the trophy because the occasion felt so overwhelming. Her triumph propelled her to a career-high world ranking of number 7. While back home in the Czech Republic, nearly 1,000 fans gathered in her hometown square to celebrate her return. That is the purest form of tennis glory, a legacy earned through championships, resilience, and unforgettable performances on the sport's biggest stage. Yet Alex Eala's remarkable rise represents something tennis has rarely had to measure before, a level of stardom that exists almost independently of the scoreboard. It is the difference between being respected and being beloved, between collecting titles and inspiring an entire nation. When a player ranked outside the world's top 30 attracts more viewers to a press conference than Novak Djokovic, it is no longer a coincidence or simply clever marketing. It is evidence that public attention is shifting in a meaningful way. And perhaps that is a point many fans miss while arguing over who is truly the bigger star. These two players are not chasing exactly the same prize. Noskova is building a legacy defined by trophies, rankings, and history books, while Eala is creating something the WTA has struggled to cultivate for years, a genuinely global crossover audience capable of attracting millions of casual fans to the sport. Which achievement is ultimately more valuable depends entirely on how you define success. If tennis exists solely to crown champions, then Noskova's Wimbledon title settles the debate without question. But if the future of the sport depends on capturing hearts, generating worldwide conversation, and inspiring people who have never watched a tennis match before, then Eala's extraordinary impact tells a story that no trophy cabinet can fully measure. The reality is that women's tennis doesn't have to choose between these two paths. In fact, it may be stronger because both now exist side by side. One player has become a Grand Slam champion, while the other has become one of the sport's most compelling global personalities. And together they are reshaping what success can look like in the modern era. Now it's your turn to decide. Was Linda Noskova's Wimbledon triumph the defining story of the summer? Or did Alex Eala capture an even bigger victory by winning the world's attention long before the championship trophy was presented? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear where you stand in this fascinating debate. And if you enjoy thoughtful, in-depth tennis stories that go beyond the final score, be sure to subscribe, because we're only getting started uncovering the stories behind the game.